Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life is Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. Today's episode, we will be discussing the St. Paul the Apostle Church and the St. Michael's Church in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. So tell us about the St. Paul the Apostle Church in East Longmeadow.
Alright, there's two Catholic churches in East Longmeadow, which is peculiar because you would think a community that size would only need one. They're both modern locations. In one case, the St. Michael's was actually an old church and it was replaced along the way. So we're going to talk about both these churches and why they're there and why the St. Michael's had that old church bell. Right, now first, St. Paul's the Apostle Church, that was built in the year 1960. That's a cornerstone to tell you that. And it's found at 235 Dwight Road of East Longmeadow. Now, the Springfield border is on the property of the church. So, if you go anywhere past like 20 feet from east to west across the face of the front of the road that meets the church, you're already into East Longmeadow. And also the first 30 feet, I believe, are also in Springfield. So, Springfield is a tiny border along its left side and its front side. But since it makes the roadway, and the addresses are given on the basis of where the land and structure meets the roadway, its front land is Springfield. So its address, true address, is Springfield. So when you read the Springfield Diocese webpage, they say this church is in Springfield. But 98% of it, basically, on a land basis, is in East Longmeadow, and 100% of other property they own is in East Longmeadow. Okay, now they have some really cool things associated with this church. The church was started, like I said, in 1960. They finished it in 1962. It has a very basic design to it. A rectory is behind it, and also a social hall in the very back. And there's a very nice looking statue of the Virgin Mary towards the right hand side. All right. Now, the coolest thing that I think historically is it has a carved stone on its front left lawn that denotes the boundary marker between Springfield and East Longmeadow. And a lot of these markers surround the borders of East Longmeadow. They're found along all four of its borders, that were Wilbraham, Springfield, Longmeadow, and Connecticut. And so you can actually see those markers around town. And one of them was on the front lawn of the St. Paul the Apostle Church. So there's history right there for you.
And tell us about the St. Michael's Church, Isabel.
Okay, this is the older one. It started out in East Longmeadow. I think the year was 1900 or 1992 or something like that. Okay, now that church itself, which was towards the center of East Longmeadow and about 100 yards from its center green, was taken down. In 1970, they replaced it with the modern one. And I think the modern one's look is that of an inverted ship. And I get that sensation because I visited the Whalen Museum in New Bedford, and the front of it looks just like that. Okay, now, what is here? Well, the rectory is towards the left-hand side. There's a lot of statues, the statue of the Virgin Mary out towards the front. Also in the front, though, there's a very old bell, and we're going to be talking about that. And there's a bit of a social center associated with St. Michael's, but it's about a half-mile away, so you have to drive to it to get to it. All right, but St. Michael's is the old one of the two in East Longmeadow. Most people in East Longmeadow would go to this, and the other one would be a mix of people that live towards the northern part of East Longmeadow and the southeastern part of Springfield.
And really quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, for more information or to sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, @yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, why are there two Catholic churches in the town?
Okay, East Longmeadow has two Catholic churches. The major one, though, is St. Michael's Church. I've actually known about that church since I was a teenager back in the 70s. So most people in East Longmeadow go to that one. The other is right in the border of Springfield, East Longmeadow. And I mentioned that it would pick up a lot of parishioners from the area, northern part of East Longmeadow and the southern eastern part of Springfield itself. So it picks up those kind of people up there. I believe I heard it also has a lot of Vietnamese Americans, Catholics, that go to that particular church. So there's two in this town only because of the peculiar arrangement of the border of East Longmeadow. Like I mentioned, all the church itself and the buildings are inside East Longmeadow, and just a bit of the land is in Springfield, and for that reason it has a Springfield address. So it's all a coincidence.
And what is the church bell in front of the St. Michael's Church?
Okay, there's a beautiful church bell. You get to go almost right up to it. There's some green bushes around it. And the bell was made, it says right on the bell 1888. So that might be the date that the first St. Michael's Catholic Church in East Longmeadow was put up. If that's true, then St. Michael's Church predates East Longmeadow itself, which came during the 1890s. Now you can still read the company's name right on the bell, so it's very fun to go look at it. It still looks like a functional bell. All the pieces look like they're quite solid. And they made a base for it, and that's very nice. St. Mary's Church in Westfield did the same, except they put doors inside of a small glass house, so it's going to weather very well through the years. This one has to put up with the winters, and so it might start to rust at some point.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And of course, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And of course, check out a large selection of our podcasts at his website,